The federal government is putting up more cash to help make Canadian homes greener. The new grant is designed to subsidize the cost of replacing oil-burning furnaces with electric heat pumps. Low to medium-income households are eligible for up to $5,000, and that grant will be available starting in early 2023. So while the new program is national in scope, it is tailored toward households in Atlantic Canada, where more than 300,000 homes in the region use oil as their primary source of heat. Sean Fraser is Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. He is also a Nova Scotia MP, and he fronted this announcement today on behalf of the Minister of Natural Resources. Minister Fraser, I wonder if we can start with a basic question. How is this $250 million different than the $250 million announced by Minister Guilbeault in September?
Well, the answer is pretty simple. This is new money that's going to be incremental to previous announcements, not only to the $250 million my colleague Minister Guilbeault announced previously, but also on top of the Greener Homes Grant, which also provided grants of up to $5,000 to homeowners for home energy retrofits. This is new money that's going to allow more people to transition away from home heating oil at a time when we know that they're really concerned with the ability to pay their bills every month. It's good news. It's going to reduce pollution and put more money in the pockets of homeowners, and I think that's a good thing.
So it's $500 million in total, but this one is more specifically targeted to transition from home heating oil, and the $250 million that Minister Guilbeault announced, while it can be used for heat pumps, is for a broader range of retrofits. Am I understanding that properly?
That's right. And look, this is in response to a rapid rise in the price of home heating oil, which disproportionately affects us in Atlantic Canada, but not exclusively Atlantic Canada. And we needed to respond to make sure that people understand we're here for them as the price of energy has gone up, as the price of groceries have gone up. And when you talk to people at home, this is real world stuff. People are telling me that they're going to the gas station now to fill up jerry cans for home heating oil because the price has increased. But they can't afford necessarily to cover the cost of transitioning to a heat pump on their own. So with a brand new program that's going to help a lot of low and moderate income Canadians make that transition, we expect more people are going to take the plunge and install these heat pumps, which is going to save them potentially thousands of dollars a year. It's a good thing, and it's completely new money on top of the programs that you've mentioned before.
Yeah, I used to have an oil tank on my house when I lived in St. John's, and so I've talked to people back home about this very program. And $5,000 is nothing to sneeze at, but you know yourself, Minister, the price of putting in the pump, if you put in the ducts, you got to take out your oil tank, you've got to safely remediate your oil tank. It gets a lot more than $5,000 very quickly. And this program's only for households with less than $54,000 of median income. So do you worry that price could still be a barrier, even with the $5,000 you're putting there? Because with cost of living at those income levels, it's already a challenge for, say, a family with that kind of a household income.
Look, anytime you're dealing with cost being a concern, you have to acknowledge that every single dollar matters. The conversations that I'm having with people at home over the last number of months are about whether they're willing to take their kids to the grocery store because they're afraid the cashier is going to tell them they haven't got enough money for what's in their cart, and they don't want their children to see that. So when we're talking about $5,000, every single penny counts. But I would point out that this is not a standalone program, David. In addition, we have the Greener Homes Grant, which can provide an additional $5,000. So in effect, for people who are trying to do the calculation as to whether they can manage this, I point out that they have now programs that will give them up to $10,000 in addition to the $40,000 interest-free loan that's going to be straight cash to help people with the cost of these programs. And we were thoughtful in the policy design and this transition fund to help people make the move from home heating oil to heat pumps, because we know a lot of people can't front the cash. We designed the program in a way that allows them to get the cash first and prove after the fact that they've actually spent it on transitioning away from home oil towards a heat pump. We're doing everything we can to continue to support people during extremely challenging times, whether it's our GST rebate, a new support for families to help with the cost of dental care, top-ups for low-income renters, and now today, a new program that's going to put $5,000 directly towards the cost of a heat pump, in addition to a pre-existing $5,000 grant that families could avail themselves of.
Okay, so these things can stack on top of each other, and I think it's about 1 in 3 homes in Atlantic Canada use home heating oil, or it's around 30%. It's a pretty significant number. What sort of analysis have you done on how many homes you think can actually take advantage of this and get off oil in the next little while?
Look, it's difficult to say with precision because some of it will depend on whether other households have availed themselves of other existing provincial and federal programs. You never know what policy uptake is going to look like until you actually roll it out. We think the numbers will be potentially higher with this program as a result of the decision to give cash upfront, allowing more people to make that decision, knowing they don't have to pull money together that they don't currently have in order to access it. So I don't want to put a firm number on it, but easily this is going to reach into the tens of thousands. And if you wanted to do the math yourself, a $5,000 grant out of a $250 million fund is going to result in a lot of Canadians who have more affordable and more efficient energy options at home.
Minister, where did this program come from? It wasn't in the fall economic statement. You know, this is $250 million is not immaterial. It feels like that's the sort of thing that Chrystia Freeland would have had in that document when she was updating Canadians on the state of the economy and the state of the finances, especially with the focus on cost of living and dealing with energy costs. So, like, why wasn't it in this? It just seems, where did it come from?
It comes from conversations that we have with members of our communities. I think sometimes people forget that members of parliament and ministers don't just have jobs in Ottawa, but we spend most of our time when we're at home talking with people. What we've heard was over the course of the past year, people are really anxious about the cost of keeping their homes warm this winter. When we talk to people, they've repeatedly cited to us that they're fearful that the costs are going to continue to increase. We don't necessarily want to wait until the next budget cycle to roll out a program that can help people more quickly. And the great thing about this program is it's not going to provide some short-term relief that will help them get through a single season. It's going to provide a permanent solution that's going to save them potentially thousands of dollars year over year over year. So it comes directly from conversations with members of our communities, discussions that we have with our caucus colleagues, and ultimately a decision of the Minister of both Natural Resources and Finance, as well as Environment and Climate Change, I should point out, to take action now while we have the opportunity.
So one last question. You get the $5,000 up front. You have to prove that you use it for a heat pump after the fact. What happens if people don't get the heat pump? I mean, how do you do it on the enforcement end to ensure that there's compliance and people actually use the money the way it was supposed to be used?
Well, we borrowed this concept essentially from some of the emergency benefits that we rolled out during the pandemic. A trust and verify model allows us to reach the greatest number of people in the quickest possible way. If people choose to take the money out and use it for purposes other than it was intended, of course, we'll have the ability to go back and conduct that audit. And this money does have to be spent. Otherwise, people will be in a position where they might need to pay the money back. However, I should point out that people who make this investment with money they receive from a federal government program, they're going to be achieving significant financial savings personally as a result of making this investment. So it would be in the interest of people who are actually applying to actually go forward and purchase the heat pump if they're transitioning away from home heating oil, because it's going to save them so much money every single year.
Okay, Sean Fraser, thank you for your time.
A pleasure as always. Thank you, David.